Welcome to another episode of Shift with Elena Agar. Today, I really have a treat for you guys. We have a really, truly insightful and inspiring episode lined up for you where I invite David and Carlos from Stone Park, entrepreneurs who have journeyed through the highs and lows of building their diverse business empire, which spans real estate, film production, and more. In this episode, we dive deep into the essence of entrepreneurship, discussing the critical importance of friendships, resilience, and the power of genuine connections. David and Carlos share their personal stories of overcoming significant business failures with reflections on how family support, self-reflection, and a relentless drive have fueled their success. We explore the nuances of balancing personal and professional lives, the necessities of leveraging technology in modern business, and the value of action and mentorship. From the technical challenges of starting a podcast to the motivation drawn from unexpected connections, this conversation is packed with valuable insights for anyone navigating the entrepreneurial landscape. Enjoy it, and as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think. David, Carlos, welcome to the Shift Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Looking forward to speaking with you finally.
Yeah, I know. I always love interacting with fellow podcasters because I like to put you on the other side of the screen. Usually you guys are doing all the interviewing. Now it's my turn to do this to you guys. So do you guys do this often? Do you do swaps often, or are you mainly like going after the guest?
You're our first one. Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun to be on the other side as well.
It is. No, it's definitely different. We're so used to bringing guests in, so now when we're kind of like being guests, it does flip the script, but I like it.
Yeah, as you know, you kind of prepare, you learn the person before you interview them, and in my mind, I'm like, what is she gonna ask me? What's so interesting about me? But yeah, this is our first swap, and I think we connected on Instagram. And what's funny is like when I saw your profile picture, I didn't tell you this. When I saw your profile picture, I said, I know we're gonna connect. Just like that, just by seeing your picture. And then I think within a couple hours, we just started talking, and then here we are.
Yeah,
so that's crazy.
He told me, he said, hey, I found someone on Instagram. It looks very interesting. I think it's going to be awesome. And
we were thinking about you as far as coming onto our podcast, and you flipped it around. You're like, hold on, you're coming on mine.
Let's do both. Listen, awesome. You really interesting backgrounds. I'm curious to learn more about you guys. So, podcast Stone Park, but it's much more than that, right? So you guys are entrepreneurs. Sure. So tell me a little bit more. David, we'll start with you. Just tell me a little bit more about your background. How'd you get into this? Then we'll move into Carlos. How are you guys working together? Give me a little bit of insight.
So Stone Park was started a while back. Me and my business partner, Michael, we were childhood friends, and we instantly connected. And as soon as we got out of high school, we just started doing hustles, I guess you could call them. Nothing, I wouldn't say business, but hustles. And we ended up getting into real estate. That was our first kind of like real thing. And I think I was 19 at the time. So we were babies. And, we went through that, and we went through the first phase of 2000, I would say 2006, 2007, when the economy just went in the toilet. We felt that pain, and we were able to pivot to construction. So we've always kind of been in the business, and I would say I have 20 plus years experience. In 2000, I would say 17, 18, we got back into it, but roided it up. We did development. So now we are in DC doing multi-family condo developments. And that's just the real estate side. We have a production side where our dream and what connected us was film. And we always wanted to make movies together. So we actually did so in 2017. It's called One Penny. And it won a bunch of awards. And that's another side of Stone Park. So we're a production company and a real estate development company. And then I got Carlos here, who started working for us on the real estate side. And we got the talking. And I just, it was nothing about work. We clicked. I believe in, signs and chemistry. And he was like this guy that, he's working for the company, but I was like, wait a minute, we got to do something together. And then that's the birth of Stone Park Podcast, which is where we bring in entrepreneurs, kind of the same template as you, learn their story. What I like to learn is their failures, because I learn from that. And I think that that's what kind of makes the person the person. And what's cool about Carlos is not only does he work with me in Stone Park, he's down to do whatever, and he's an entrepreneur himself. And I'll let him take over with that.
Yeah. So my name is Carlos. As David said, in 2019, they came back into real estate and ramped everything up, and that's when I came into the company as a supervisor in the job sites. My background with entrepreneurship is in 2008, 2007. My mother started a cleaning business with no experience whatsoever, no English. I mean, she's a immigrant from El Salvador, and she just got the idea of, hey, I want to start a business, and I don't have no background for no business, but I said, you know what, we're gonna make it happen, and in 2011. I started my branch from the cleaning business. And ever since then, I've been kind of working for myself until I came across Stone Park. And it's like, as he said, he also has Stone Park Productions, which is it's in film. I love film. I'm into the creative part of, whether it's music, photography, videography. So I said, wow, this is gonna be this is a great opportunity. Plus, these guys are great, So I said, you know what? Let me go in here, and it's more income, right? I mean, as an entrepreneur, there's ups and downs, especially when you have to figure it all out on your own. So I said, if I could secure myself also with with the work, everything will be okay. It's a win-win situation. Well, as he said, the years went by. We would talk about work, and then kind of, every now and then talk about other stuff. And those other stuff was kind of building up, and kind of like building a bond where we just kind of like, man, we got to do something about this. Like, putting up, work aside, even though it's tough because, as an entrepreneur, you never could really put it aside.
Mhm.
But, we've made some space for podcasts now, and we're having fun with it, and we're meeting so many people, as like yourself, so it's awesome. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, beautiful, beautiful stories, guys. Why Stone Park? I'm always curious, like, why do people name what they name? What is it just?
Yeah, so Stone Park, if you think about foundation, like stone, like
Mhm.
can't not breakable, you always need a foundation. And then park is the entertainment. So we always had movies in mind. We, that's the dream. So for us with our podcast, Dream Build Connect, you could always be in any phase. So even though I'm maybe connecting with the real estate, like I'm at the top of my game with that, I'm still in the dream phase with our movies because I'm still trying to get that second one off. So that's it, Stone Park.
Yeah, love it. So talk to me about failures, David. You mentioned that before, and
yeah.
I want to hear some failure stories from both of you.
Oh, for sure. So one thing that this is more of a Carlos question because he can go into it. He loves failures, but yeah, I think that I don't want to say I've been through so many ups and downs that I'm pretty much used to the failure. And I think that as I step back, when you're in a failure, you think the world is going to end. You think, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time. What am I going to do? You want to quit. But at a young age, I experienced so many failures that as you look back, you start looking at the failures and saying, ooh, I learned this, I learned that. So I would say a big failure when the economy went down in like 2007, we pretty much lost it all. We had to pivot and do construction. And it was tough being your own boss, right? Because the first stage was just kind of flipping properties. We buy properties. Mike and I would go in it, and we actually do all the work ourselves. And then we grew a little bit. We had a couple people under us, but for the most part, we were very, very hands-on with the construction. When you go, but you're your own boss. So you go when you want, you leave when you want, you tell people what to do, you're in control of everything. When you pivot and you decide to bring on clients, it's a whole different ballgame. You are really working for them. They're the ones that dictate everything, whether it's payment, finishes, everything. So it was a hard pill for me to swallow at a young age, because when you're young, you think you're on top of the world. And especially when you're young and you make money, you think that this is going to happen forever. And when it doesn't, it's very, very humbling. So that was probably my biggest failure right there, that I didn't get out when all the people, like my mentors and people, my peers, were getting out and telling me. They were saying, hey, something's wrong. You're not going to be able to get a loan anymore. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. I'm going to keep going. And still, I continue to make money. And then all of a sudden, boom, it was over. So that was a tough one for me.
Well, for myself, not coming from a business degree background and being prepared and being kind of like just, knowing it and going into business, everything is a trial and error from every single aspect. And throughout the years, you start learning, right, from your mistakes, and to a point when you finally feel like you've made it, right? The pandemic comes and just wipes everything out completely. Yeah. And all the hard work that you've done, that my wife has done, is just, we lost every single customer, every single house that we had that was a regular. I mean, everybody, because nobody wanted you at their house. I mean, it was just understandable, right? And we just kind of had to go back and be like, wow, what are we going to do now? And the failure of like just not having nothing no more, and then whether are you gonna sit around and mope and cry, or are you gonna try to get back up on your feet and start from zero again, or back in the days, getting customers was a way that was pretty easy. It was a lot of like, boots on the ground, kind of like go out there and get, word of mouth, a lot of flyers and stuff like that. But with the new age, it's different, so we just had to kind of like evolve with the times, and starting from zero again, was tough. But we did it, and now we're thriving and everything is all happy. But we now have that experience of knowing what it feels like to be kind of like getting everything taken away from you and not being prepared, So now the experience is be prepared, have some wiggle room, kind of like always think ahead, So it's just so many,
And I think also, like, we're talking about bigger failures, like, COVID happened and it wiped his cleaning business out, right? The economy went in the toilet, wiped my business out. But just the little things, the little failures, like the no's that you get, the doors that get, slammed in your face. As an entrepreneur, you got to be tough. You got to know that, okay, it's a numbers game. So for every door I go to, how many until I get the yes? It might be 10, it might be 20, it might be 100. Yeah. But when you fail, you understand that. And if you see that it's part of the process, that's what's going to get you to the next level. And I think and I think you could agree with that. It's kind of part of you now, where to someone just starting, it's not. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. You got to get over that. If you're not prepared to fail, this isn't it for you.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Carlos, I'm curious, this resilience, and David, same question to you. This resilience that you had to kind of keep going, right? Because it's a mindset. And I think, like we all know, like it's a mindset. So do you think, was it something around how you grew up? Was it watching your mom, and just because she did her own business and like just watching that? Like, what do you think it was that helped you create that mindset to be like, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah, 100%. We actually had an episode. We kind of like talked about this a little bit. And it was, for me, it was mostly understanding, like, I've been given an opportunity, being born here, being able to speak the language, and seeing my mother come from El Salvador with the equivalent of like 7th grade level education, with no English, doesn't know the language, and make something of herself. And to this day in 2024, still be out there grinding and making it, made me realize, like, well, why can't I do it? She went through the pandemic as well. She lost all her customers as well. It wasn't just me. I'm sure a lot of other companies did the same. but it was about who's going to get back up and continue, or who's just threw in the towel. My mother didn't throw in the towel, and I saw her, giving my wife, the push, like, hey, no, this is not going to last forever. We just got to start all over again. Like, if nothing happened. And I'm like, I'm over here, like, going crazy, like, oh my God, and my wife is panicking because then she sees, like they say, the captain of the ship, you're panicking, everybody's panicking. And then that's another thing that I learned, like, hey, I got to calm down, because if I do this, if I'm panicking, then everybody's going to panic, and then I'm watching my mother, like I said, being less, having the less opportunities, having that fight in her. And I'm like, well, then what am I crying about? I'm not the only one, so it's just, I gotta get out. I gotta get up and gotta keep pushing, keep trucking. That's just something that we always say, it's like, keep moving. That's it.
Yeah, I think on a surface level, it's more so the people that are depending on me. So that's a motivator, right? Fear is a motivator. I think for me personally, at such a young age, I just felt that I always had to make it. And I also had the opportunity to have this best friend / business partner, Mike, that when I'm up and he's down, I bring him up, and vice versa. So we've always been able to seesaw that and just keep moving. And I just don't see a world where I give up. I just don't. So I think it might just come from within. My parents, they weren't entrepreneurs, but they always gave me support. And that could be something too, that I always had love, support. I had always a small family, but a good family. And they've always been rooting for me. And that, and in a little way, I don't want to let them down, right? I don't want to, I think they lived through me. So I'm the one, right? And I just keep that in my mind and keep moving forward. So that's my motivation.
You mentioned something about fear and how that can be a motivator. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so I think you have your, again, I'll say surface motivation, your family. Like, I look at my kids in the eyes and I'm going to do this for you. But I think when I'm by myself and everyone's sleeping, or I can't sleep and I'm looking at the ceiling, or I'm looking at myself in the mirror, thinking about the moves that I have to make, I have that fear of really, what the hell am I doing? I can play it off well, but I'll be honest with you, because I feel like we all feel that no BS. What the hell are we doing? Are we really up here doing this? Are we making moves like this? Are we really putting it on the line? So that fear is always inside me, and it keeps me moving. And it's just a dark, creepy fear that I can't stop. I cannot do it, because if I do, then bad things are really going to happen, and then I really will be scared.
It's also like a self-reflection, right? Like, where you actually, like, you have to self-reflect and ask yourself, are you really trying? Are you really giving it your all? Because if you don't, then there's nothing you can complain about, because you haven't gave it your all. But when you're giving it your all, you know what I mean? Like, that gives you that resilience also. Like, it pushes you, because you wanna give it your all. You don't want to you don't want to say, look back and be like, well, I didn't happen, but that, and like, that you didn't give it your all.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
That we all know when we're not doing it.
Yeah, we know. It's like, you have to self-reflect.
The people around us think we're doing it.
Yes.
But if you're not doing it, that's the scary thing. And that's the thing that you have to overcome and really do it.
100%.
Because you're only fooling yourself.
Exactly.
That's it. At the end of the day, you're only fooling yourself. So to know that, and then possibly know that you are fooling yourself, that's scary.
Yeah.
So.
That's an excellent point. But I'm curious, for some people, I wonder if they think that they're doing something, but it's not the right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, like, what is, like, how do you know if it's, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's like, how do you determine, like, is it like, okay, I'm doing this thing because I see I'm generating money, or like, there has to be some outcome of what you're doing. Because there's a lot of people that are dreamers, and it's beautiful to dream, but it's like without action. So I'm just curious, like, because people are like, I'm doing, but it's like, what are you doing? It's like, have you figured out like any Like
Yeah.
if
So I think
that's the term.
when you're young, you just do what you said, I'm doing, right? Because the act of doing, you're not just talking. So that's the first step. But as you get older, the act of doing, and we say fail, but Carlos has mentioned this. We don't say just go out and fail, right? Like you're not looking to fail.
For sure.
The failures will come, but you keep on doing it. For someone that's getting a little older and they understand that, okay, this is what I want to do, they need the mentors. You need mentors, and you need to not be inside your head. So have you ever met someone that they just know it all? Just everything that you say to them, they just know it all. So why are we talking? You already know everything. It doesn't make sense. But have you ever talked to someone that maybe has 10x of your net worth, but is listening to you and vibing with you and understanding like, oh, you got something there. There's a difference. And I think that everyone that we come across, there's some kind of symbol there. There's some kind of meaning behind it. And all it takes is you talking and being free. If you keep everything inside, you're going to think that you know everything. But if you start talking to people and then getting mentors, and it doesn't mean that you have to listen to everything, every single thing that the mentor says. Mm-hmm. It's basically they're giving you knowledge, and you take what you need and you move forward. And if the results are ending up that you're going up, that means you're on the right track. Sure. But if you keep on going down, then there's something that you have to fix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that, Carlos?
Well, yeah, I think it's individual. All that stuff is individual, so it's kind of hard to just pinpoint it as like a big umbrella for everybody. Like you said, when you're young, you're able to kind of, I'm just having a.
You put yourself out there.
Yeah, you put yourself out there with no fear, to kind of like to fail. But when you get a little older, you have to be more selective on what you're doing. But it is all individual, and you have to really pay attention to what's working and what's not.
And just listening to people.
Yeah.
Just listening to people. It doesn't mean that you have to take their advice.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised. A lot of people are giving you gems, and if you're listening, you could
catch them.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's crazy.
But if you have all the answers, then
you just
there's no growth there. There's no growth.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I could say it because I've been there.
Oh yeah, so have I.
No.
Yeah.
But that's the self-reflection, though. That's what I'm saying. Like that's when you kind of like keep it real with yourself and understand. Be like, hey, I've done that, and I need to change that, But if you can't realize that, you can't self-reflect, you're always gonna have those blinders, and you're not gonna be able to see it. That's how you won't be able to grow and just great.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about kind of network, but also friendships. And this was Simon Sinek and the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. They were having a chat, and what was interesting was that Simon Sinek said, I have more people that I can call when I'm in trouble than I have less people that I can call when good things are happening. Mm-hmm. So like somebody to celebrate with. And relationships and networking and friendships are such a big part of entrepreneurship, right? Like there's of course your family, but also the friendship. And I find myself in that situation. And I was listening to it yesterday. I was like, that is true for me too. Like, and it's kind of sad. And I started to rethink like where my friendships are, where I only have a number of people I can call to be like, this is happening. I'm so excited. Right. But you know what I'm saying? Because people tend to want to be with you in the bad times, which is okay. But there's also this, I don't know, like I'm from Russia. So we have this like thing where we're like, well, don't say good news too loud to anybody type thing. It's like this superstitious thing that we do. But I'm curious about your relationships and your friendship and your business partnerships. And like, how do you maintain that? Like, how do you find those people that you can actually, call? Or do you have, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I grew up with a small family, so my friends were everything growing up, and the friends that I have, we went to elementary school together. So we've grown up and we've given business ideas, we've done business together. Mike, for example, my business partner, we went to high school together, and we're like brothers. So I think for me, when we decided to grow the company, the people that came in, you can't control this, but the people that came in, what we would try to do is find out what their passions were. So Carlos, for example, when I did get to talk to him, other than, just talking real estate, I asked what he liked. We're into sneakers, we're into music, we're into movies. When the whole podcast idea was his idea, because I had mentioned it, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I was going to start a podcast with my brother. I bought all the mics, and we just never did it." And just talking to your group, in my case, the people that work for Stone Park, not just making it like boss and employee, more so like making them entrepreneurs as well. So I always tell them, I say, hey, look, if you have an idea, Mike and I are willing to support that. If it works with our business plan, like, don't ever hesitate. And that's kind of what we did with Carlos. And what's cool with Carlos is that I believe that we've lived many lives, right? And in your crew, let's just say there's like maybe 10 in that circle, and then you have a few around, but they're always moving with you. He's part of that. I feel that, and I bet you agree with that, right?
100%.
We just click, we connect, and it just so happens that it ended up happening through Stone Park.
Yeah.
And I believe that him and I will, to the day we die, we'll have a good relationship, whether he continues with Stone Park, whether we continue the podcast, or maybe do bigger things afterwards. I believe that. So to answer your question, I think that bringing in, there's a flip side to it, but bringing in people that you trust, that you admire, that you want to work with for a long time, right? The flip side to that is you can't be friends with everybody, right? Business is business, and it has to get done. So sometimes you got to show teeth. Some people don't like you. I get that. You do have to be a boss, but there are going to be some superstars that automatically you see from the get. You're like, that's the one. And you have to be mindful and make time for that. So that's how I get through. And I am like you. I got a few friends, so my phone list isn't that long to call. Like, hey, I have this, I have that. But my list when things are going bad is long. So you're not the only one. But what keeps me sane is the people that are around me. I want to build with them, and I want to have great success with them, and that's what keeps me moving.
Yeah. Well, for myself, just like you, Elena, like I could probably count with my hand how many people I could call, for a good thing. I have leftovers for the bad things. My wife, my mother, my immediate family, are the ones that I kind of relate with when it comes to my business. But when it comes to entrepreneurship and ideas, mentorship and stuff, this guy right here, and Mike and Stone Park, they've been the ones that have opened my eyes to other things, other ideas and evolving, what I already had, So, it's a small circle, I wish it was as big as the bad side, right? You could like have the support for everything, but it's not. But then again, I'd rather a small real circle than a whole crowd of just, fake, So I'm happy for what it is right now. And I'm learning, like I said, just like my mother did in 2006 when she started. I feel the same way, only that I have better opportunities than she did. I'm in the learning process. I'm always in the build process. As like we say, dream, build, connect. I'm still building. I'm always going to be building, and with people like him and like yourself and these connections that we make, now I would say that we want another person that we can look, we can count on.
I'm telling you, when I saw your picture, I was like, yo, she's the one. And then all of a sudden we just connected. I'm telling you, and that's how it happens. And it doesn't. You don't have to. I took martial arts when I was younger with Mike, so that was another thing, that bond that we had. And our teacher said, "Look, your person is not in this room. We're probably in the next 10 years are all going to fade out. You're just here because of your parents live here. You went to this school, and now we are here. Your person is going to come in a way that you just weren't expecting." That's it. And they just just pop in and you have to realize it. So it could be when you're 10, it could be 20, 30, 40 years old, even older. So
yeah, I tend to agree. How do you balance all of this? You are fathers and husbands and friends, obviously, and family members and business people, podcasters. How do you, who gets the best of you? Who gets, how do you balance it all?
Yeah, I think that for me, and I guess I'm kind of pushing both of us to like to as much as we can. Sometimes he's like, "Yo, Dave, this is a lot," and I'm like, "No, we got to keep going." So I think for me, it's death. It's just death. There's a few people that have died around me, and I'm looking at my life, and I say to myself, "Well, if I were to die right now, did I do everything that I could do?" Right. And another thing is going back to like that fear, and things just kind of not working out. Is that really a reason for me not to do the things that I have on this list? No. So even though I'm down, this is the time to start moving. And I think that to me is keep going, keep moving. The people that hurt from this is probably most my wife. So I think, just because I'm getting things done doesn't mean that I'm perfect. And I think that that's a big thing that I need to compartmentalize and say, you know what, time with my family and my wife and making sure that I take care of that it should be number one. And so that's one thing that I'm working on. But yeah, we push it. We try to fit it all into those hours that we have, sleep less, work more. That's the hustle of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's very true. One of the things that you would think is when you're an entrepreneur, I'll work for myself, I'll make my own hours. You actually work a lot more. So when it comes to with that, my wife, she runs the business as well, so she's always on go. I'm always on go thinking about the business, and then I'm also here. And then with the podcast, sometimes it's midnight, 1 a.m, and I'm laying in bed with the laptop editing a podcast, an episode. And my wife is like, "Are you still working? You're still editing?" And I'm like, "I know you're still working because I know you're still thinking about customers for tomorrow." And then we just laugh about it but she understands, So because she understands, I'm grateful, because or else it would be chaos, like having the stresses of maybe her being angry and being kind of like, "Oh, why are you taking so much time?" But it is tough. It is tough to balance. There is times where I kind of like, I just feel like the tension, and I just sound like, "Oh my gosh." But that's just because I know that I could self-reflect, that I could be like, "Well, I did waste about 2 hours, maybe not doing nothing. I could have done this." And then I just tell myself, I'm like, "All right, well, I got to do better with my time management, you know? But it is tough, being an entrepreneur, also being an employee, and then having a podcast and doing everything. There's just so many hats, But with the right people, I'm like my wife being the biggest support that I have, because she's at the house. She's the one that, like he says, the one that suffers the most is the wife.
Yeah.
Just hearing all the crazy ideas of like, "Hey, now I gotta do this. Hey, what about the?" And it's just, I'm always throwing ideas. I'm just trying to see if they hook, and she'll make it hook. And so just the support. I think my wife is just probably like the reason why I could still keep it all balanced and everything's still together.
Yeah, and I watched this documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and one of the things he said is, everyone says that I'm self-made. No, I had many people in my life to get me to where I am now. And I agree with that it's not just us, it's our families, it's our friends. It's we have so much support, and that's one thing that we have always had, and I'm very
even my kids. Like, there's sometimes on the weekend where like I'm like, "Hey, I gotta go do a podcast," and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they're cool, like they're cool with it. Sometimes I'm like, "Hey, I've gotta sit a couple hours, I'm gonna edit." They're cool with it. They're like, "Oh," they'll come, they'll be like, "What are you doing, Dad?" And they're like, they just support it. They're not like, feeling like, "Oh, you're not spending time with us." They understand, So having family or friends that will understand, what's going on with you and support, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small amount, like we said, just even if it's a few, those are the ones that we want.
Yeah, that's gold. And I'm sure your kids observing you guys just, you're, subconsciously, they're also registering a lot of information about, how to be on the go, but also like how to be passionate, how to work hard, which I feel like with a lot of Gen Zs, I have sisters that are Gen Zs, and I'm like, you guys are like same father, right? Different moms, but same father, same, like, and I'm on my hustle. Like, I do 3 different things. Like, my partner does 3 different things. Like, and then my sister's like, la da da, and I'm like, where did the gene miss, you guys? You know what I mean? Like, we always joke about it, but it's like, and then it's just like, I feel like there needs to be more of that seeing. And there's a lot of talk about balance, and that was kind of like a term that a lot of people use. I, frankly speaking, don't believe in balance. I think you prioritize, you get your shit done, you hustle. That's life. Do you know what I mean? If you're excited, if you're doing something you're excited about, if you're passionate, because otherwise we're just, creating this new generation of a lot of young people that are just, it's all about balance and like no, it's not, that's not life. If you want to, do anything worth doing, like, it's just, you just got to find something you enjoy and then go after it. But I'm curious also with a lot of changes that are coming, whether in podcasting, I mean, there's always like new things coming up in podcasting and, equipment and trends and all these things. And I'm sure in real estate, it's similar. How do you keep up with, like, do you make time to think about like, what are we going to do like a year, 2 years from now? Like, how do you prepare for the future in your industry?
Yeah, I think for real estate, our projects take, like, the developments take about 2 years. So we have to really plan out, how are we getting this thing done? And then when are we going to put it on the market? Because we can miss a good market, like the spring market, summer. If we miss that and then creep into fall and winter, the property is just going to sit. So there's a lot of planning that goes on with real estate. And then also with all the technology. So now people, you can use Redfin, you could use Zillow. You have a lot of people that are, I'm not saying that they're real estate experts, but they know what they want. So we just recently started transitioning to showing our stuff ourselves. So not relying on the real estate agent, on their photos and their promos or marketing materials. We decided to take it in our own hands and start filming all our stuff. Because what was happening was, we had all these beautiful projects that we were doing, but all we had were these photos. And to be honest, what's the difference? Unless I'm in the photo showing you that I'm hammering, you could do the same. You could take my photos and go to clients and say, hey, this is my project, right? So we decided, and this is another thing, using Carlos's passion. He grabs his camera. I'm like, meet me at the property. And I guess it's been maybe 10 months, but now we go through all our properties. We show from, the demolition phase to rough-in phase to it going onto the market, being staged, all that stuff. So I think utilizing technology, and social media is old school. And we should have been doing this maybe like 5 years ago. But now, AI is coming in and starting to learn about that. And how can we utilize AI to possibly, well, I'll tell you how. So I just started using it just to do certain bids and budgeting. And you'd be surprised that it actually knows, and it's pretty spot on with our actual budget and AI's budget. So thinking about how we can use tools to get us to the next level faster, but not only faster, just keeping up with the competition, because the competition will go and we'll be left behind.
Yeah, social media. I mean, the new age, right? I mean, it's been around, but now it's kind of like being amped, and it's moving fast. It is AI is just like really out there. So for like business, learning how to have more of a presence on social media is extremely important. We came in kind of late in the game for podcasting, but every day there's channels being born, so are we late? Or it's a question that
we are late. We are late to the game. However, let's just do it. Let's just do it, and let's get it moving, because a year or two from now we're going to be happy that we did it, versus us a year or two from now thinking, we should have done it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just trying to stay up with the way the evolution of technology and use it in our advantage. and whatever talent, we feel we have, use it, like you said, we're doing our own videos and doing our own walkthroughs of these properties, and just showcasing, and using these platforms that are available for us. So.
And I don't think you guys are late. I mean, I don't know who determines what's late or what's on time in
Well,
terms of
that's what I'm
podcasting,
saying.
but
It's like it's subjective. Like,
Yeah.
every day there's channels being born, and it's kind of like, is a newborn baby today late for being born? And you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I see it as like, you're late if you just never show up. You know what I mean? And I mean, we're here. You know what I mean? Especially how technology's moving. I think I think we're fine.
Well, listen, when I saw you guys' podcast and the fact that you do it in person, you have a really cool like studio set up. And then I've been doing my podcast for 4 years online. And I've been like, for the last 6 months, I've been trying, I actually got all the equipment to do it in person, but I haven't set up the, like, I need a space. I don't have a space in my place big enough for that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out like how to do it in person. And I think that's a big, what's the word, like a differentiating factor, because there's a lot of online, but I think in person is it's such a different engagement, and the way you edit it, and the like you're doing a lot of things that I'm like, oh my God, I wish I need to do this, but because I'm like challenged. Maybe I should hire Carlos to do my might steal him away from me. Because I have to do it like I'm a solopreneur on the podcasting side, so it's like so tough. Anyway, it's just tough. And I'm like, man, like, so, but, every time I see it, I'm like, I really need to use it. And I literally have equipment sitting right here. I just like spent thousands of dollars for equipment that's not being used. So anyway, it will happen this year. So I think your podcast is on point, especially in terms of the visuals and just the presenting of it is beautiful. Honestly, I'm totally envious.
Thank you.
But as we wrap up this conversation, I'm curious, from your experience so far with podcasting, what has been like surprising lessons, because it's a whole different game from what you guys are used to. And Carlos, like, where did this creative side come about for you? Like, because it's very different from your business.
So I'm I was in music. I do music, and as a young teenager, being in the rap music and just being in the mix, right? As I got older, I said, well, I can't be a rapper my whole life. Like, I'm getting older now. That's like a young man's dream, right? So I said, you know what? I need to learn how to make the music, record the music, so I could still be involved in music, but now behind the scenes. I need to learn how to use a camera so I can film a music video or film another young artist and still be involved behind the scenes and stuff like that. The editing, well, it comes with the camera, so I need to learn how to edit whatever I'm gonna film with the camera. So that, and then like the movies, I've always have had a dream to kind of like do like a short film and even a big film, or just be involved in documentaries and stuff like that. I love it. I mean, I could binge watch like documentaries and films, and I love it, right? So, coming across with Stone Park, it's basically the same thing. If I'm an artist that I'm not like this mainstream artist, I'm an underground rapper. They're like basically an underground movie developer. I mean, filmmakers. So I could understand that passion of them wanting to make a movie that could hit the blockbusters. So same thing with me. Like, so that's where the connections came from. But the passion behind it is just, I've always had the creative. I whether it's drawing, pictures, just looking at an art. I could look at something and just find an art in it. So just I love it. I love creating something out of nothing. So. Yeah, and having the podcasts and videos, and once you have all the footage and everything, I mean, the tools are there, I mean, all the materials there. I just got to kind of piece it up together. And plus, with his help, with the way he sees it, things, is awesome. I mean, it makes it a little bit easier for me, basically.
Yeah.
I think that, and I think the hardest thing as far as podcasting goes, or what I wasn't prepared for, was the time. That it takes time. You can't just wing it. So, for example, when we did our first episode, I think we didn't even have the camera on, one of the cameras on. So we did the whole episode with one camera, and then he looked at it, was like, yeah, the camera's not on. I'm like, oh man. So during the first episodes, you can see I'm kind of pissed. I'm not even laughing. I'm like, it's like my fourth time doing it because something else happened. So that we got over that. And
so many trial and error.
That was the the easy hill to get over. But I think it was more so figuring out what are we talking about. So in the beginning, the first episode, and I think I scratched it. I was talking about me. I was talking about my life story, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this isn't. What else are we going to talk about? Like, I'm just going to talk about me." Yeah. So we decided that to collaborate and think about it and say, "Well, why don't we take little things in entrepreneurship that a young entrepreneur or even a seasoned one would understand?"
Yes.
And then that helped us. And then kind of having a formula, and I know that you know this, having a formula, like where are you going in this podcast? Because you'll just like, how are you going to end it? How will you begin it? Like, what's the theme of it? That to me, not that it was hard, but it was like, oh, I see why people get into this and get out real quick. And like, kind of like our jobs or our ventures that we do. And it's cool connecting with him on a podcast because he has that don't quit mentality. So many times, we were like, I want to quit, but we just looked at each other and we said, look, let's work on this. Let's take a break. Let's take a moment, and we make it work. And what's real cool is hearing people like after the podcast drops or whatever. I talk to people like, hey, this thing that you said was really inspiring. But the thing that really gets me is when we have the guests and people feel the guests. They're like, oh, I love when you have couples. Can you do that again? And that makes me feel good. It's like, whoa, okay, you really like that. And that's what I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting the difficulty of like the edits.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm really militant with the edit. And I think that that's something that Carlos and I are just different, with like, he's more, hey, just put it out there. And I'm like, you gotta move this. You gotta move that. You gotta move this. You gotta move that. And I think it was a challenge in the beginning for him because my Word doc was full, but I would put that thing at 9 font. So you know how the Word doc starts at like 11 or 12. So I'm like, how can I make this look like it's not that much? So I put it, I put it down, and he's like, man, there's a lot of stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. And now he's getting it because he sees that like, or he hears the feedback, especially with your brothers.
Oh yeah.
And when you hear that feedback, or even you said, hey, I love the way you edit it. I love the way where it is.
It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, like, totally.
It makes you kind of like think like, oh man, so man, that's what's up, man. That's awesome. And like it does make it. It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So thank you for that because it is something that it takes time. I mean, one of the episodes we drop our episodes every Wednesday at 5 a.m. Right. There was an episode where it was like 4:15 in the morning, and I was still like, oh my gosh, it's almost 5, and I'm still not done. Like, it was just like one of those that were a little bit tough to edit, and it was all worth it. It was one of the episodes that people really enjoyed, but it's tough, you know what I mean? But it's fun. And when you like something and you love something, it's like doesn't really feel much as work, even though it is tough, But that's what keeps it going.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm more on a Carlos's train. I'm like, I'm just gonna get it out because Elena has 3 other things I need to do. But I need a David in my life. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Like, you need somebody. I'm with you, Carlos. Like, I'm, like my partner is a little bit anal about certain things. He's like, you should be doing this. I'm like, do you want to do it for me? Because I'm, like,
I know.
No, Elena. Yes, like I know. We're here. Trust me. But like. Actually, like if I sit back and I take some of my emotion away, and I'm like, okay, like think about it, like he's right.
Yeah. I know he is.
yeah, he's right, and like I know that it does look better. You know what I mean? It does make things better. It's just what it is. You just gotta kind of like accept it and kind of like just know that it's for the better of the podcast. Of our project. So and it's paying out. It's worth it.
Yeah. I love it. Before I ask you my last question, where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you for either real estate needs, podcasting, cleaning businesses, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I'll start off. So for the podcast, it's just Stone Park Podcast, like everywhere. So if you Google it or on all social platforms, you could just find us. And then if real estate, same thing, Stone Park Real Estate everywhere. So we got all the names for that.
Yeah, same thing. Stone Park Real Estate. You'll find, David and I and all the videos. For podcasts, same thing. David and I for the Royal Cleaning. It's the company, Royal Cleaning Company. You can go to Facebook and / Royal Cleaning for you. You see the page, which is there's a lot of testimonials from like real clients and that are like leaving nice comments on my wife's work, because I say my wife's because she's like she's the face of it there, and she does an amazing job. So flowers to her and shout out to my wife.
Yeah, she's and I know his wife, and she's really cool person, go getter, and just like positive energy. So I would definitely connect with her.
What's her name?
Her name is Stephanie Martinez.
Shout out to Stephanie. We're going to connect. Love it. I'm going to make sure to include all of that in the show notes as well, guys.
Thank you.
Final question I ask all of my guests.
Sure.
What is one question you wish people would ask themselves more often?
I can go.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Yeah.
Why are you doing it?
Yeah. Why are you doing it? Because I think that people, you get stuck. You really get stuck, and sometimes I'll take my wife for example. She worked for the University of Maryland for many years, and she was good, but she just hit a ceiling, and it took her a while to have that confidence in herself to start looking for other jobs. And she has she works for Marriott now, and she is killing it. She's killing it. And I always told her, I'm like, why are you doing this? Right? Like what's the point? Like what? And it goes for even, it doesn't have to be for an entrepreneur. You just ask yourself, why are you doing it? And then once you have your reason, you can go for it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you get out.
For me, it would be like a self-reflection, right? Are you doing enough? For whatever it is, just ask yourself, are you doing enough? And if the answer is no, then, I think you know what you need to do, you need to put a little bit more effort for whatever it is. It could be anything, if you're showing up work late, are you getting to work on time? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just about entrepreneurship, you know what I mean? Just in life in general, are you doing enough, And I think that if you start doing enough or at least better than what you were doing, the results are going to be better for whatever it is that you're doing, So, yeah.
Love it. David, Carlos, thank you so much. I'm so happy to have had a chance to meet with you virtually.
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure we're going to meet in person very soon.
Yeah.
And really think great energy. I love it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Elena.